The impact of the BBC Micro is immeasurable. It created a generation of software and electronics engineers that are today's entrepreneurs developing the products of the future.
Chris Curry got wind of the idea that the BBC would sponsor a particular computer. So they were going to make a TV programme about these new microprocessor things and how they change people's lives. And at the time, all computers were totally different. So the BBC realised they needed to have a singled-out design, or nothing would work. Programs built for machine A did not work on machine B, even if it might have the same microprocessor underneath it. Everything else was vastly different. So Chris managed to sell the idea to the BBC that Acorn's next computer, which you realise at the time had just got the name Proton and the concept that it had two processors and there was nothing else. Chris convinced the BBC that the Proton would be a suitable computer for them to evaluate. The BBC had been working with a company called Husky, who were building a computer, and they'd worked with them for really quite some time and were getting a bit disenchanted of the progress they were making. So Chris said, well, why not come round and see our prototype next Friday? When the BBC arrived at Acorn's offices, I'd got that far. They hurriedly shuffled the BBC team off to Herman and Chris's office for a pep talk, and then brought them upstairs, by which time I had the machine generating BBC Mode 0 graphics, 640 by 256, black and white graphics, and drawing a little random line across the screen, done by blind typing into a basic interpreter.
So you got the contract?
We got the contract because the BBC knew that we didn't have a prototype beforehand, and they saw a working machine, and this was more than any of the other people had managed in all the time. So over the following year we built the machine. The 100-chip machine was a bit expensive to produce, so we took the decision to put 2 custom circuit parts into it. So a large portion of its cassette interface was put into a custom circuit, and a great deal of its video graphics interface system was put into a custom chip. Steve and I were sure they were making a massive mistake. The BBC had asked Acorn for 12,000 of them, and we thought the machine was a good deal better than that, and we'd sell 50,000. Over its lifetime they sold 1.25 million. The level of interest was really quite high, and the pressures that Acorn was under from 1981 to 1983 were massive to get this thing, a very, very advanced machine, into volume production. BBC machines, being very powerful, flexible machines, got everywhere because we put all the stuff that we'd learned from embedded control into it as well. So they spread out into all sorts of research establishments and hobbyists and everything. It just went mad. The BBC machine had a very peculiar lasting impact because it was such a flexible machine, and with its language processors it was such an upgradable machine, and the operating system and so on, everything was open and you could get at stuff and learn about stuff, learn how it worked. So for a very large proportion of the people who design hardware and software in the UK, or computer games, you discover that they learnt their craft on a BBC machine way back when.
We hope these films have inspired you. Collusion would love to see your Cambridge Invents interviews. Maybe you have an invention to share, or you know someone who does. You can use the hashtag Cambridge Invents to share your films with us, and also to tweet us about other Cambridge inventions you'd like us to profile.